Well, it's time for business news now with Matthew Warren. Matthew, here's Greece could be one step closer to getting an injection of funds this Tuesday.
That's right. That's because it's on Thursday, actually, that Eurozone finance ministers decide whether to give this 34 billion euros that Greece badly needs. This Tuesday is the deadline for the buyback programme. Now, that needs to be a success for that money to be given. Now, this buyback is the Greek government offering to buy back bonds from investors, offering 30 to 40% of the value of those bonds. The reason is it wants to chop about 30 billion euros off its enormous debt pile. Now, later today, in fact, midday London time, we'll find out the results of that buyback programme.
And how are markets looking this Tuesday morning?
Well, we can take a look at the European markets, which have just opened in the last 15 or 20 minutes. You can see that they're all pretty flat. Only the Paris CAC 40 managing to find a few gains there at the time being. The Milan market, just take a look there after all that uncertainty and instability, down about 0.5%. Let's give you Asia markets as well, which have wrapped up for the Tuesday trading day. And also a mixed picture there. The Shanghai was off a bit there, down 0.5%.
The crisis in the European car sector is continuing, Matthew.
Yes. Now, a couple of things to talk about here. One is that later this Tuesday, there'll be a report out on the state of the French car maker Peugeot Citroën. Now, this is yet another report, this one commissioned by the unions to see whether it's really necessary to close that plant north of Paris and cut 8,000 jobs as well.
And German car workers are also at risk of losing their jobs?
Yes, so this is the other side to it. The car maker Opel has announced that it's definitely going to stop production at a car plant in Germany from 2016. Now, this is a car plant, of course, Opel owned by General Motors. They've been unable to save this plant in Bochum, and that's putting 3,000 jobs there at risk.
No last-minute rescue plan. This was the outcome Opel workers in Bochum had hoped could be avoided. The carmaker is to press ahead with plans to stop production at this plant in 2016, once its Zafira line is discontinued. General Motors will continue to have a warehouse at the site, but the majority of the 3,000 jobs here are at risk.
The reasons for this decision, for this difficult decision, are the dramatic reduction in demand on the European car markets, as well as the enormous overcapacity at Opel, as well as in the entire industry.
It's a dilemma facing car makers all over Europe, plummeting sales and factories that are too large and too expensive to keep open. Opel has been hard hit by the fall in demand. It lost $747 million in 2011 and has racked up $15.6 billion in losses since 1999. With the company projected to stay in the red in 2012, GM has been forced to cut 2,600 jobs in Europe and reduce costs by $800 million.
Ford already has announced that it will close 3 plants in Genk and 2 plants in England. Fiat has closed a plant in Italy. And as for Peugeot, the plant in Aulnay near Paris will be closed. So the market is so difficult, and it will remain difficult due to these problems with debt.
Factory closures are a sensitive issue politically too. The German government described the move as a severe blow. But with European car sales falling by more than 7% in the first 10 months of this year, there may be more bad news to come.
Matthew, staying with company news, 2 British banks have received big fines in the US.
Yes, big wrapping of knuckles here for both Standard Chartered. They got a fine of over $600 million in total for breaching US sanctions with countries like Iran. But a bigger fine has gone to the bank HSBC. They've got a fine of $1.9 billion. They're accused of transferring funds for Iran as well, and also channeling money for Mexican drug cartels amongst the charges. Well, that fine was very big, but one analyst gave his assessment of the impact of that fine.
Well, it is quite a big amount, certainly, but it is smaller than what BP suffered at the hands of the U.S. government. It won't bankrupt the bank. It means it is taking away a quarter of HSBC's profit, so they will have to cut dividend and cut costs to get that back. But it won't cripple the bank, and that is the main point.
Matthew, this is a strange one. Passengers on Hong Kong's Cathay Pacific may have to get used to grim-faced cabin crew. Why is that?
I'll explain. So cabin crew there have voted for some industrial action. Now, what they've said is not a strike right away. They're going to work to rule. What does that mean? Well, the head of the union has been saying that that could mean just providing only the minimum service, not smiling at passengers, not providing alcohol, not serving meals. That would make for a pretty grim flight, wouldn't it?
So they just don't smile because they're not paid for it.
That's right. That's what could happen.
And there's better news coming out of the Spanish airline Iberia?
Yes, that's right. So passengers will be happy to know that the unions representing both ground staff and cabin crew have cancelled their plans to have stoppages in the run-up to Christmas. Now, there's still a big dispute over job cuts, 4,500 job cuts planned at Iberia, but no stoppages for now.
In Argentina now, the biggest media group in the country seems to have won its battle with the president.
Yeah, this long-running battle between the president, Cristina Fernández de Kirchner, and the Clarín media group. Now, she's been saying that they are breaking anti-monopoly rules because they are so enormous. But the government went to the Supreme Court on Monday to try and win their argument.
Clarin's earned a stay of execution. Argentina's government had been attempting to force through legislation aimed at dismembering the country's largest media group, something blocked by the Supreme Court.
We know the challenges of constructing a democracy happen every day. I will add that when some people's media weapons fail, they try to build judicial weapons to knock down or beat on the government.
Argentina's largest newspaper, Clarín has a heavy hand in TV and radio too, and was worth some $2 billion last year. The government insisted it was breaking anti-monopoly laws and had to sell off certain broadcasting licenses. However, Clarin's also long been a critic of President Cristina Fernández de Kirchner, what the group calls the real reason for bringing the little-known media law to bear.
It was only destined for Clarín, even though there are various other groups in Argentina outside the new laws but haven't been summoned by the state to comply. And these groups haven't even taken judicial measures to have the laws suspended.
Given Argentina's rapidly polarizing media sector, some think the situation is far more about profits than free speech.
I think what Clarín and the other groups are defending the most is the market share in broadcasting. More than their free speech, they hide behind the concept of freedom of expression.
Either way, what is certain is that de Kirchner has lost yet another round in an ongoing battle with a hostile element of the Argentine media.
And that wraps up this edition of Business News with Matthew Warren. Thank you very much. World News is back in just a few minutes on the half hour with Georgia Calvin-Smith.